The stage is ours.
All right, brother. Well, let's start with one of the great poets, Shelley. He said that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. What do you think about that statement? Is it true? Is it pretentious? Is it pretentiously true?
I think that it's by saying it, you acknowledge it. You know, I mean, Pound said that the poets are the antennae of the race, and it's the same thing. You know, in order to create the future, you need the poets with the language that can see through it. That's why we use these cameras. You know, whatever the digital world, whatever technology throws at us, we are there with the response. Like last night when we had the movies. We had movies in a poetry reading. It was a great night.
It was, and it was, as we discussed earlier, I mean, unexpected. And it didn't go the way anybody planned, but that was one of its
The after reading
marvelous,
was longer than the reading, I think. People really got into talking about it and moving in different directions, even towards J. Alfred Prufrock, you know. You have asked me. I have been, called to request here for this poem, 1990.
Yes, which was one of the highlights of last night's reading. Yes.
Okay, so here we go. 1990. The taking of flash photos and use of recording devices of any kind, including eyes and ears, pens and pencils, is strictly encouraged. It's 1990, and Nelson Mandela is free. And people are looking at each other, and they're going like, what? And the other people are looking back, and they're going like, duh. And then, finally, after this deep interaction, you hear the wild cry of, excuse me, can you tell me the time? What time is it? It's wake and shake time. It's death of the decade time. It's turn of the century time. It's gyrate the millennium time. It's the end of time. At the sound of the tone, it will be the end of time. It's 1 PF. It's post future. It's 1 PT. It's post time. It's post time. It's a 1990 and Nelson Mandela is free and history's on fast forward. Make that double fast forward. That's where you run past the future so fast you're back in the past. Sure, it's the end of history, so how come all we can think is what comes next? 1 minute you're rolling in ecstasy because the Berlin Wall is tumbling down, and the next you think a reunited Germany. Oh God, no! Here come the stormtroopers, and I'm Jewish. Well, my father was Jewish, so I'm not Jewish enough for the Jews, but I'm Jewish enough for the Nazis. 1 minute it's survival tactics, and the next it's where's the angle? Because it's 1990, and Nelson Mandela is free, and everybody wants a little glasnost. We know we want it because we see Frank Zappa smoking cigarettes with Václav Havel, who 6 months ago was in jail, an artist whose work was banned by the government. Now he's the president of Czechoslovakia. So stop in for free baby burritos at the corner bar, except suddenly it's a karaoke sushi bar specializing in piranha sushi, and everybody here's a star because you get to stand in front of the massive TV screen showing an MTV-1 video clip and sing along with the bouncing ball, except the words are all in Japanese. And how can you sing feelings with feeling in Japanese? Kanjiru, watashi wa kanjiru. It's 1990 and Nelson Mandela is free. Communism has collapsed. The Russians get to wear the happy face masks and stand in line for a Big Mac. The Azerbaijanis are free, so they get to beat up on the Armenians. Yugoslavia has decided to go back to indigenous cave tribe groupings, and in Italy the communists have met and decided they're not communists. They're going to change their name to be more appealing to the socialists and the Greens, but for the time being they're calling themselves simply the Thing. The Thing, you know? I think I'm going to vote for the Thing for the time being. For the time being, there's nothing left anymore except for the time being. You live your whole life for the time being, while meanwhile, There's no meanwhile. It's 1990, and Nelson Mandela's free. Play ethics by ear. Get me out of here, but which way is out? Senor Yuppie. Phone call for Senor Yuppie. Excuse me, I have to step over these homeless people to close on my home equity loan. Sorry. But where did they go? The Chinese students on their bicycles riding towards the tanks at Tiananmen Square? It can't happen here because it's already happened here. AIDS epidemic grabs life. We don't even see it. Gone like holes in the heart. And be sure to send your poetry to the Department of Official Bullshit to get labeled. So it just has to be time to get a co-op. That's right. You buy the place you used to rent and you still get to pay the rent. It's time to be a great parent, work extra hours to pay for the best child care while you're away. My kid is majoring in Nikes. Don't worry. Don't be happy. Explode! The decision of birth from her body is solely and privately that of the woman herself. It's 1990. Nelson Mandela is free, and everything used to be something else. Now it's 1,000 words a minute, and Times Square used to be so much more interesting. We're hell-bent on something sort of positive in a senile way. I can't even keep up with my life. It's a secret between me and my stunt double. Honey, I'm home. Nuke me! Hop to it. Ban cigarettes before it's too late. It's Earth Day again. If you find any Earth left, paranoia used to be a psychosis. Now it's a national pastime. Have you tried the new fashion, the bare breast style of no clothes at all? It's not cheap either. And poetry is the newspaper of the future, except it's locked out of the media. You know things. Think them. There's optimism at the yacht club. The salad bar is open. Excuse me, isn't it time to mow your head? I hate you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. They don't even know what it is, but they've already got an option on it. Let's not make a deal. It's 1990 and Nelson Mandela's free, and there's this guy on a TV and he's yelling at me because he's not using any language that makes any sense from where I come from. It all rhymes and it all starts with capital letters and it's all intense italics underlined 3 times and boldface headlines, and all I can remember anyway is that part about how it's 1990 and Nelson Mandela is free. And around the world, a sense of possibility as women slowly ease the old gray dinosaur poobahs out of their penile thrones. The universal remote control is being passed into your hands. Zap it, zap it, zap it, zap it, zap it. It's 2023 and the Globe Theater Cafe is revolving, the wobbling pivot as the moving center becomes the future.
I can hear the small hands of rain applauding.
No one, not even the rain, has such small hands. Thank you, EE. Well, what happened last night was that people started saying, did you write that in? You talk about the Globe and tonight in this. So did you write that recently, this poem, or does it come from back then? And I think that's the great thing, is that a poem can play with you like that. You know, it's a moment of history from the past, but it's still very much the present. And to tell you the truth, the people that want to know, I did write it back in the day, 1990, but I did improvise on it last night to bring it up to date for where we were at the greatest poetry reading of all time.
Well, one of the greatest.
Oh, it was fun.
Now, what do you think about, you mentioned Ezra Pound, the antenna of the race, and then what about his contention that poetry is news that stays news?
Yeah, the wonderful thing is that poetry lives in the contradictions. That's the definition of metaphors and similes, is to bring together things that are different and put them both in your mind at the same time. So, you know, if you want a poem, you're going to live with that.
Yeah.
Just like we're going to live with this storm that we're in the middle of.
Yeah.
I think it's time to move.
It's basically like, it's a haiku that I wrote reading in the rain saying a good book is destroyed
go!
by how good it is.
Get out wherever you are.
We have come back twice.